An amazing guitar, a really important friendship, and an unfortunate outcome situation. That's what this guitar is. This is my 1970 Martin D-41. This is the second year of production for the Martin D-41. Made in 1969 was the first year, 1970 was this year. The first year, the main differences would be Brazilian rosewood back and sides. This one is Sitka spruce top, East Indian rosewood back and sides. Main differences between a D-41 and a D-45, there are a few. First one, this one is pretty early on, so it doesn't have a first dot, a first fret hexagon marker, but like a 45, it has big abalone hexes on the fingerboard. Now these aren't as big as the bigger brother of this, the D-45. The D-45 is going to be more aimed at abalone everywhere. This one has a lot of abalone, so around the top edge, but it does not have it around the fretboard extension, does not have it around the neck heel, does not have it on the back. Those are the main differences between a 45 and a 41. Now this guitar is early in the 1970s, so it avoided a couple of the main problems that people typically have with Martin D41s, just Martins from the 1970s. This guitar still has a very shiny finish, and it still has very dark, beautiful East Indian rosewood back and sides. Now, it's not as chocolatey as they get later on and undesirable. This is still a really good-looking guitar. This guitar does share a few problems that guitars from the 1970s from Martin involve. The biggest one being this does have a rosewood bridge plate, not a maple bridge plate, so it makes this guitar sound a little spongy. It also, because it's a Martin from before 1984, this does not have an adjustable truss rod, and so because of that, the action is fairly high. It makes it hard to play, and so in the end, this guitar needs a neck reset. Not the end of the world, to be expected. I knew that when I got it. Now here comes the story. So one of my first guitar playing friends was Sam. Sam was a dear friend. He was an older guy. He had a bunch of really cool Martins, and he knew, he saw the fire get lit in me when I played old Martin guitars. And so he would bring guitars over for me to check out. He would buy stuff from our shop. And I remember seeing this guitar and loving this guitar. And Sam told me one day that he meant to leave this guitar to me in his will when he passed away. I was finishing my student teaching. I was taking some time off from the guitar shop. And so it just worked out that by the time I got married and finished my student teaching and left the guitar shop, I just never caught up with Sam. And so Sam passed away a couple years later. And I also never really wanted to I didn't want to find anybody and say like, oh, he meant to give me that guitar, because that felt really grabby, and that's not my style. So around Christmas, about a year ago, so there's a long gap between that, like a 10 or 11 year gap. Around Christmas of this past year of 2020, someone reached out. They found me through YouTube and they said, hey, I own a guitar that I think you would want to own. And they just knew that it's an old Martin and they live in the same part of the country as I do. And so they reached out and they said, hey, this is a D41. And that's when my spidey sense started going off, because there can't be that many of these. So I went and I met up with a guy who was selling it. And as soon as I saw it, I knew that this is the guitar that belonged to Sam. And so it has a blue case, and on that blue case it says Shady Grove, which is the name of the property that Sam owned. And so this is the guitar that I loved when I was 19 or so, and Sam and I were first becoming friends, and I would play this guitar all the time. And so now comes to the unfortunate current situation of this guitar, and I need your help and your advice. This guitar came home with me right around New Year's, and it's been here. It's stated, where my personal guitars get kept, and it's very cool looking. It looks amazing, but I continue to have the same problem, which is I don't like the way it sounds and I don't like the way it plays. Now, the first thing, let's talk about, can I change how it plays to make it play great? Yes, I really can. But both of the guys that I would use for neck resets are exceptionally busy, because I talked about them on YouTube, and now Danny, the fret boss in Stanton, is super busy, and Ben with Allegheny Lutherie, here I am doing it again. Both of those guys are now really busy, and so it's going to be a long time. So maybe that's what I should do. I should just get it out of my sight and just let it get the neck reset. but neither of them really want to change the thing that I think is giving me a hang up, which is the Indian rosewood bridge plate. It's a big, thick piece of rosewood on the inside of the guitar underneath the saddle. And that has a really negative effect on the tone of this guitar for me. Now, this is all preferential. Like a big bluegrass player would love this because it can do stuff like this. This guitar could be really right for somebody, but it's just the really hard part of just owning up to the fact that it's just not my thing. Okay, so other complicating factors. I bought this guitar for $2,500. I did not buy this to flip it. I did not buy this to sell it. When that happened, my friend Mike, who is a really great friend, Mike is the one that he came up with an amazing caper to buy the Martin D-28 from me so that I could take care of my family that belonged to Raymond and Joshua. And then he also got it fixed and then gave it back to them absolutely for free. So Mike is this Lionheart who is just an amazing force of good in the world. And so Mike reached out to me. There was he had some money that had come in from donations for us to find other guitars that should stay with people. And anyway, in the end, what happened was Mike had this chunk of money, $950, and he gave it to me so that I could offset, because this guitar got bought with my investment money, not personal money. And right now, I'm not really buying guitars for myself. I'm buying guitars that have to come and go. This one was an exception. So Mike sent me $950. And that now arrives me at the place where I've had this guitar for long enough to know that it's not my thing. I don't like it. As much as I love looking at it and I love the story with Sam, I just don't think I have space for it. I would rather put this money into a guitar that will be with me forever, that I will get to grow old with. Which is really complicated, especially the public component of this. I've taken heat from people for many things. The main accusation, and I will not give much air to the hostility and to just the vitriol that I've experienced, but I will say this. One of the main things that keeps coming up is people telling me, Sam must have not meant that much to you if you're going to sell this guitar. And the reality is, Sam really means a lot to me. I take friendships very seriously. They feel like these giant redwoods that grow up in my life. They become really important and significant. They help me orient myself to my surroundings. I view the world through relationship and friendships. When I was 20, so 13 and a half years ago, my mom died. And she was just the life of my family. And there's not a day that goes by that I don't think about her, miss her, wish that she was here. Now, a few years ago, my family sold the house that I grew up in. And it was sold to a school. And that school found issues with it. And there's a bunch of stuff going on. And so the house that I grew up in was demolished. It was torn down, and I got to see it happen with bulldozers. And so in that process, we were forced with, what everyone is going to eventually have to deal with, or your kids are going to have to deal with, or your family, or neighbors, or strangers. There were all of these things that were around when a person that I loved was around. And one of the things that we realized in the process of cleaning out this house, cleaning out these things, and letting lots and lots and lots of things go, is that having those things doesn't mean that like the memory of my mom was more real. And I remember during that time, people saying kind of the same thing. Like, how will you remember your mom if you don't hang on to her newspapers from 2004 or the school schedule from the fall of 2007? These things that and in philosophy you call this essentialism, the idea that there's somehow the person's essence is attached to the material things. So will I forget my mom if I don't keep these things? Absolutely not. She is with me. She is in me. There is this component in which I think about her more than I think about most anyone. Now, will I forget Sam if I would sell this guitar? No. I very much carry Sam with me in the way that I treat people, in the way I respect people, in the way that I love guitars, in the way that I know and see and care about vintage guitars, particularly Martins. When I see old Martins, I think about Sam, and that will not change. Now, I don't know. Will I regret selling this guitar? I don't know. I don't think so. This is a really, lots and lots and lots of thought and care have gone into this. And I've talked to Mike every step of the way. I've said, Mike, I just haven't bonded with this guitar. And he gets it. He understands it. So what are we going to do with the $950 that was given to me, that was given, because that was all money that was donated to help other people who like guitars that should stay in certain families, to stay with them. So, I mean, that money is still in play. I'm going to give that money either back to Mike. That's option one. I can give it back to Mike and he can find somebody, or we can find somebody. Or the other way is that I can give away a guitar that's either $950 in value, or I could just give a sponsorship to someone that is looking for a guitar. I don't know how that will work, but there is a public accounting for this. And this is not, there's no sneakiness, there's no underhandedness. People are frustrated that I'm selling this guitar for more than I paid for it, which is a funny and silly complaint to me. This is how I take care of my family. I did not intend to buy this guitar and sell it and make money on it when I bought it. But the way that I take care of my kids, take care of my wife, take care of my life, plan for life to come is buying and selling guitars. It is also making videos. It is also helping guitar shops create marketing systems that they can create community in their guitar shop. It is also helping guitar brands launch new guitars. But I'm thoroughly, like, the well-being of my family is tied to guitars. I'm still torn. This guitar is for sale on my website. I've priced it high because I don't really, I've pumped the brakes. Like, I don't need to sell this. I don't really want to sell it. But if somebody's looking for a second model year, I get deep joy out of people buying really cool guitars and finding the guitar they've been hoping for and dreaming of. And so anyway, tell me in the comments below, kindly, with wisdom and generosity and kindness, and assume the best of my intentions. Tell me, what would you do? Would you forget a friend if you sold their guitar? And what would you do? What do you do when you get a guitar that you feel like you should love? People you like love, but you get it and it just doesn't speak to you. It just doesn't connect with you. What do you do? So this is a moral quandary, and I'm glad that you watched this video. Thanks for watching. I'm Jeremy. I'm the guitar hunter. I'm not Jeremy the guitar collector. There absolutely are guitars that I buy and I keep forever. But it's much more an art than it is a science. Thanks. I'll see ya.